Hello, guys. This is Monday night's episode of Teen Wolf titled Galvanize. So, Agent McCall is seen managing a secure patient transfer to Beacon Hills Hospital and tells the ambulance driver to go around back and to keep quiet about the identity of the patient. Inside the emergency waiting area, Melissa McCall is adjusting a jack-o'-lantern when she catches sight of her ex-husband and Sheriff Stilinski on a collision course. Stilinski is livid and says the FBI can't bring the patient inside the hospital. He says they'll have to take him elsewhere, but Agent McCall says no other hospital will take him, all claiming they are over capacity and can't handle another surgery. The patient is rolled in past the McCalls and the sheriff. We see his feet and his arms are strapped down with a thick padded cuffs or leather, so obviously this dude cannot be trusted because he got to be strapped down, seriously. So Melissa realizes that she's the one who has to do his pre-op interview. Meanwhile, at school, inside the school locker room, Styles is lurking with a flashlight while talking to Scott on the phone. It's 15 minutes after midnight, officially Mischief Night or Mischief Night/Day, and Styles says it's a tradition to prank Coach Finstock. October 30th is also Coach Finstock's birthday. Styles is frustrated that Scott isn't here yet. Scott claims to be in bed already, but then suddenly appears behind Styles with his eyes glowing, frightening him badly. Cause it's already dark. You don't see that scare your friend like that, really, Scott, really. So Scott could go as himself for Halloween. Look, let's say that you put on makeup. See, Scott could go as a werewolf for Halloween. What? That's what they would think it is. Just a costume. Think he just got some really cool contacts. See. So Styles, yeah. So back at the hospital, Agent McCall warns his ex-wife about the patient she's about to meet. He was a former electrical engineer who decided to walk on a school bus with a shrapnel bomb. 4 of the students on the bus died. Another lost his legs. Every day, the patient allegedly says that if he gets out, he will do it again, and next time he's going to get it right. So I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of creepy. So we have her then doing a pre-optive questionnaire, asking this, that has his name on it, his date of birth, his weight, his height. Also, she got to take his blood pressure, other issues. And she asked, reads from the form, asking if Burrow understands that the scar tissue has formed around a piece of shrapnel that remains in your body from a previous injury and that is now blocking vital function. She then explains that they will put him under general anesthesia tomorrow morning for the surgery to remove the obstruction. Instead of answering her questions, Burrow asks if the kids still pull pranks the day before Halloween. Melissa calls it Mischief Night, but Burrow says where he's from was known as Hell Night. So then she lists off medications he is taking. Tim Maze Pam. It treats insomnia, and another one that treats seizures and manic episodes. So when she leans in to listen to his heart, he leans up and says, "Why don't you ask the question you really want to ask?" Melissa asks why he attacked the bus, and Barrow explains that he saw the children's eyes glowing, then begins to rave and scream. So then at school, the next day, Scott and the twins arrive at school on their motorbikes at the same time. Scott wonders if they're enrolled, but they just come ask to join his pack, because currently at this time, they are what you call Omegas. Omegas are at the lowest of the pack thing. That's not a good thing. So Scott, Styles thinks it's a bad idea, and Isaac agrees, pointing out that they held Derek while Collie impaled Boyd on his claws. Aiden argues that they would add strength, making Scott more powerful, because he is literally the only alpha, and not only is he the only alpha, but he is a true alpha. So technically, adding more wolves to your pack would not be a bad idea. Just saying. So, they making Scott more powerful. Isaac and Aiden almost comes to blows, but Scott puts a restraining hand on Isaac's arm, and Aiden's eyes glow blue during the confrontation. Scott says his friends don't trust him, and neither does he, so they can't join his pack. Aiden thinks they should re-enroll the school to show Scott they are serious about being better people. He said they have to do something because since they are Omegas now, and the people that they screw over will come looking for them because they are weak. Ethan says being dead would be better than going back to high school, but then sees Danny talking to his ex-boyfriend and acquiesces. He still refuses to take math, and Aiden says he'll take it home. Inside the school, chaos reigns with rolls of toilet paper flying through the air and kids running up and down the hall. Scott stares at Kira, and she places items into her locker. While Styles asks about it, Scott says he likes her. She's okay. She's new. I'm like, dude, just go ask her out. Styles suggests he asks her out, but Scott demurs. Styles pushes Scott, saying as since he's the alpha, he's now the apex predator. He says everybody wants Scott, describing him as like the hot girl every guy wants. Scott repeats this, "I'm the hot girl," and Isaac agrees, "Yes, you are." So entering his office, Coach Finstock prepares to be pranked. He looks for hidden wires or buckets suspending over the door. He finds a red box on his desk and pokes at it with a lacrosse stick. Satisfied there is no obvious booby traps, he opens the box. Inside are screws. The coach is amused, thinking this is a poor prank. But the box is attached to a hidden wire, and when he lifts it, all the pictures and shells fall off his walls. Apparently, the screws inside his box have been formerly holding these items together in place. He sits down in frustration, but the pranksters have removed the screws holding his chair together as well, and it collapses under his weight. His cry of "son of a bitch" echoes into his classroom, where Scott and Styles smile and the rest of the class laugh. Finstock then enters the room on a tier, railing against Mischief Night and Halloween. Apparently, his house gets egged every year, and again he sees a wrapped gift on his desk. Thinking it is another prank, he throws a box on the floor and stomps it. Hearing the glass breaks, bends down to investigate and finds a broken coffee mug adorned with his picture and the caption "#1 Coach" attached, and the card says "Happy Birthday, Love, Greenberg." Lydia is waving her arm around, swatting at the air. She hears a fly, but Danny, watching from across the classroom, sees there is nothing there. Lydia looks toward the ceiling, and the sound of flies become a more uniform buzz. In the operating suite at Beacon Hills Hospital, William Burrow is in the middle of surgery. The doctors joke that it should make a minor slip and let the SOB bleed out on the table. SOB, son of a bitch. Something inside Burrow's chest is pulsating, getting bigger until they finally burst open and flies swim out into the room. That just creeped me out. If I was ever doing surgery and I saw flies jump out of a person's body, I'm quitting. I'm not doing surgery anymore. I am resigning today. This is unnatural. This is some weird shit going on. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm serious. I mean, wouldn't you freak out if you like a nurse or whatever, a surgeon, and you doing an operation on somebody and freaking flies come out his freaking body? Live flies, people. Live flies. Wouldn't you freak out too? I would freak out. Ugh. I will not be in surgery for a few days. So Burrow wakes from the anesthesia and grabs a scalpel and goes after the doctor. By the time Sheriff Stilinski and Agent McCall arrive, the murderer has escaped and the doctor is bleeding out in Melissa's arms. Back in his Beacon Hills loft, Derek Hale is using a fish hook to reattach Peter Hale's finger. He opens the container they retrieve with Brandon and pours 4 werewolf claws on the table. He explains that after the house fire, the claws were all that was left of his mother, Talia Hale. He expects Peter to insert his dead sister's nails underneath his own and then plunge them into Derek's neck so that Derek can ask his dead mother a question. The wooden container in which the claws were kept was apparently specifically designed for this purpose, as it has 4 finger holes in the bottom. When Peter jams his hand inside, the claws are driven into his nail beds. Melissa explains to the sheriff about the flies. She says there's a natural phenomenon called meiosis in which bug larvae like maggots can grow inside a living human, but says it's not likely in the stomach. She also clues him to why Burrow attacked the teenagers on the bus. The sheriff immediately recognizes the significance of the glowing eyes reference, due to the fact that majority of the kids, some of these kids at school happens to be wolves and their eyes tend to glow. Agent McCall says they got a tip that a stolen ambulance, presumably Barrow's getaway vehicle, was spotted at the corner of Truman and Spalding, which the sheriff says is just 3 blocks from the school. Aiden approaches Lydia in the hallway. She gives him a curt speech about how there's no way he can give her 2 weeks of nothing and then come back and expect them to instantly be in coach's office ripping each other's clothes off. 1 second later, they are actually grabbing each other's arm, getting ready to take their clothes off, stumbling into the coach's office. They come up for air long enough to realize that the desk is broken and decided to use the guidance office instead. I'm like, really? That's what the guidance office is for you to have your little sexual exploits? Like, really? As they close the door, we see William Barrow was standing behind it inside the office the whole freaking time. Oh my, and this dude is like creepy too, like so freaking creepy. So we then see Barrow picking up a staple gun from the floor and begins to staple his wound closed. The FBI and the sheriff's department seal off the school. Styles clues in Isaac, Allison, and Lydia about Barrow's motive for attacking the bus and escapes from the hospital, saying the live flies thing would be awesome under any circumstances. Really, Styles. Lydia picks up on the bit about the flies, saying she's been hearing the constant buzzing like flies all day. Allison heads off to research the bestiary while Styles and Lydia look for Scott. Kira and Mr. Yukimura are in his classroom eating lunch. Kira is taking pictures of her father with a bright yellow phone, and he asks why she is sitting with him instead of eating in the cafeteria with the other students. She explains that she hasn't made any friends yet and doesn't really understand why. She says she had friends at her old school, but in Beacon Hills, every time she opens her mouth, she starts rambling like an idiot. Her father tries to reassure her that someone will show interest because she is beautiful. Kira jokes that the only one to show interest is a rabbit coyote. Mr. Yukimura counters that she can't date the coyote. Kira confesses with Scott listening at the door that she doesn't want to date and doesn't want a boyfriend. She just wants to make new friends. Styles and Lydia catch up to Scott and explain about Barrel's escape. Lydia says she can't hear anything except for the buzzing now. Styles tries to convince her father that the police shouldn't leave because Lydia has a supernatural feeling about Barrow still being in school. She is confused, pointing out that Lydia wasn't on the chessboard. When Styles says she's now on the board, his father wonders aloud, is she a Kama? And Styles corrects and said, no, she's a Banshee, which means she can sense when someone is close to death. The sheriff says he has to go with eyewitness over Banshee and leaves the school, taking all but a handful of deputies with him. The school is now on lockdown till 3 p.m. Melissa brings Barrow's personal effects to Scott at school. She urges him to be careful because she looks right into Barrow's eyes, and it was terrifying. He promises to be careful and kisses her on the forehead. At the door to the school basement, Scott meets up with Aiden, Ethan, and Isaac. The plan is to use their sense of smell to track Barrow at the school. Allison has to sneak out of school to get home to search the bestiary. She says it's like 1,000 pages long, and she could be searching all night. Lydia tells her the words for flies in archaic Latin is mucus, muscaeus, I think that's how I pronounce it right. And Allison climbed out the window of one of the classrooms. It's 2:35 when Styles and Lydia begin their search upstairs. In the basement hallway, Isaac questions Scott about trusting the twins to help with the search. Scott says just because he's working with them doesn't mean he trusts them. Isaac confesses that he hates them and wants them to die. Scott points out that with Barrow around, he might get what he wants. This makes Isaac smile. On what is labeled the east hallway in the basement, Aiden and Ethan search together. Ethan apparently hears something and they pause before jumping around a corner. Danny's ex-boyfriend are standing there kissing. Aiden laughs at Ethan, who can only say, "Oh, really?" Danny looks a little sheepish while his ex look away. In the art classroom, Lydia and Styles continue the search. Styles explains the plan in which Scott and Isaac will search one end of the basement while Ethan and Aiden search the other. They plan to meet in the middle of the boiler room. Seeing a picture of a nuclear mushroom cloud, Lydia realizes that all the kids with glowing eyes are heading to the boiler room. Styles realizes that Barrow, as an electrical engineer, would have the ability to turn the boiler room into a bomb. He pulls the fire alarm to evacuate the school and gets himself in trouble with Coach Finstock, who says if he were 4 years younger, he would punch Styles. Like, okay. Scott and the Wolves join Lydia and Styles. It's now 3 o'clock and school is over. They all look to Lydia to see if everyone is safe, but she says she doesn't know. In the library, Kira has an earbuds in and can't hear the fire alarm. I'm like, why would you put yourself in that situation, girl? Coach Finstock gets her attention and forces her out of the school. In the next row of books, William Barrow is watching Kira as she exits. I'm like, creepy! Peter is recruited to help Derek with the cloth thing. He says he'll do it if he's allowed to keep Talia's clothes when they're done. Peter says he'll do it but hesitates, and Derek forces his hand into the cylinder. At Kira's house, Mr. Yukimura has invited Scott over for dinner, so she's like, oh snap, Scott's over. I gotta get cute. So Mr. Yukimura has prepared sushi, hanamachi, uni, yukara, and hirami. Okay, I had to pronounce it out for myself. So Scott admits he never tried sushi. Kira is mortified and says they were supposed to have lasagna for dinner. Her father admits he was trying to impress Scott and offers to make lasagna, but Scott says, I'm happy to try sushi. Like, sushi is really good. Like, I had sushi before. It's delicious. Anyway, when he fumbles with his chopsticks, Kira first teaches him how to hold them, then catches a piece of sushi in midair after Scott drops it. I'm like, ooh, wow, chicka, wow, wow. So Lydia is lying on Styles' bed when he has constructed an elaborate murder board on 2 walls of his bedroom. Styles connects a red piece of yarn from a picture of wheelbarrow to a picture of the high school. Lydia asks pretty much what each color string means. Styles explains that each color represents a different stage of the investigation. Green is solved, yellow is to be determined, blue is just pretty. Lydia asks about red, and Styles says that means unsolved. She points out that he only has red on the string on the board. Styles says he has detention every day this week for pulling a fire alarm, and Lydia begins to doubt herself because they couldn't find any trace of Barrow being at the school. Styles comforts her, saying she has been right every time something like this has happened. Lydia points out that werewolves couldn't find a scent and there was no bomb, but Styles persists. I'm adamant adamant that Barrow was there because Lydia felt it. He then removes the top from a felt marker and sniffs. This causes a realization, and he jumps up, heading for the school. Allison searches the pages of the bestiary on her computer. She hears a noise like someone walking, then a sizzling sound and a high-pitched yelp followed by another equal high-pitched cry. Isaac appears in the door and points out that Allison has electrified the windows and didn't tell him. Allison is amused by this. She wants to know why Isaac came. He says he's there to help. Allison wants to know if he can read Latin. He says he can, but he can look at pictures. They click over the next page of the bestiary and are confronted with a drawing of a classical Japanese devil mask. In the loft, Peter says he's going to enjoy jabbing Derek in the neck with Talia's claws, saying it would be extremely painful, and then he proceeds just to do just that. Back at the Yukimura's house, this is the first time we meet Mrs. Yukimura and learn a bit about the family backstory. They were moved to Beacon Hills from New York, and Miss Yukimura's family, has ties to Beacon Hills going back several generations. We learned that Mr. Yukimura took his wife's family name when they were married because she was the only surviving member of her line. They explained that they did this. They did not keep both names or do a hyphenated because they were married in Japan, where the law says a couple must share the same name to belong to the same Kyosiki to belong to the same Kyosiki or family registry. Mr. Yukimura says his wife's lineage is quite unique. He plans to discuss it in class. Kira says she doesn't want him to do that. Mr. Yukimura says it was a profound honor to join his wife's family, and Scott then begins to choke. Kira asks what happened to his wasabi, and Scott thought it was guacamole and he had a large mouthful. So the Yukimuras quickly begin pouring tea for him as he coughs and sputters. In the science classroom, Styles and Lydia find the door to the chemical storage unlocked, an overwhelming smell of chemicals. Lydia realizes that this smell is why the wolves couldn't catch a scent, and they find blood and staples on the floor and realize that Burrow was performing surgery on himself. They then find 3 atomic numbers on the blackboard, 19, 53, and 88. Lydia supplies the letters go with the elements, K for potassium, I for iodine, and Ra for radium. The number spelled out Kira. So now we know who he's really after. Derek is inside a dream version of his loft. The Nemeton is there, and a large black wolf enters and leaps atop this magic stump. The wolf looks like Talia's animal form seen in the episode Visionary. He stares into the wolf's eyes, and they turn red. In Kira's room, Scott is talking to his mom, catching her up on the events of the night. Before he hangs up, he asks her why she didn't change her name when she and his father divorced. Her maiden name was apparently Delgado, a common Hispanic surname. It means thin in both Spanish and Portuguese. Melissa says she didn't change it back because McCall is Scott's name too. Kira arrives bearing Hawaiian, pizza, and Pepsi. They sit on the bed eating. Allison found a few references about flies carrying messages to the dead. Isaac says he found some references to Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies. Allison and Isaac are sitting very close, and he moves in for a kiss, and she jumps up. She yells at him that he must be crazy if he thinks she would want to kiss him in any way or any other werewolf. And Isaac feigns outrage, saying he would never want to kiss her either, but while yelling at her, he removes his shirt. I'm like, woo! Bounce, wow, 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 wow. She follows suit, and they are standing shirtless. Chris Argent, her dad, enters and exits Allison in his office, where he keeps his guns. Then off screen we hear her father yell, "Another werewolf? Like, you can't find a human person?" Because first it was Scott, now Isaac. Like, girl, can you find a human instead of these werewolves? I'm like, well, she's a hunter, so wouldn't it be better if she actually had a wolf for a boyfriend? I'm just saying, they could hunt together, just saying. Derek turns to the real world. Peter is full of questions. Did you see her? What did you ask? Did she say anything about me? Derek turns on his uncle with a look of fear and confusion. He then looks like he might throw up. Scott and Kira are saying goodnight on the street in front of her house. Kira says Scott is special not just because he saved her from a coyote, but also because he remembered her name. Aww. William Barrow runs up behind Scott and hits him in the head with a metal pipe. Scott comes to with Styles and Lydia standing over him. They reach Isaac by phone, but has nothing helpful to add except some stuff about flies and the dead. Lydia says she feels like she can use her power, but she doesn't know how to trigger it, and it makes her want to scream. Styles suggests that she go ahead and scream, because technically she's a banshee. That's the kind of banshees do. They kind of scream. So she does, and when she stops, we hear clearly the electrical hum that she's mistaken for flies all day. This leads them to the power substation where Barrow used to work. Inside the substation, Kira is tied up on the floor with dirty extension cords while William Barrow rips out one of the large power lines and scrapes it along a chain link fence as it sprays sparks. Barrow puts the cable down long enough to take Kira's picture with her phone, showing off how well it performs in low light. This bit of product placement is explained as Barrow's desire for photographic proof for all those who never believed. He then explains the movie Village of the Damned, the original, not the remake. Nobody cares about crappy remakes. He claims he saw children with glowing eyes, like in the movie, and it reported it, but no one would do anything. Lydia and Styles and Scott arrive at the substation. Styles tells Lydia to stay in the car because he only has one bat. Scott spots Kira and runs to her aid despite her warning. Barrow smacks Scott with live wire, sending him flying. While still vibrating from the shock, Scott tries to distract Barrow from Kira, saying she's not the one you want, but due to the pain from electricity, he can't make his eyes glow and Barrow ignores him. Turning to Kira, he touches her with a wire. Kira glows bright white and Barrow is blown backwards. The glare is blinding. When the light subsides, we see Kira is absorbing all the electricity into her hands. The sparks fly toward her as every light in Beacon Hills begins to flicker and eventually goes dark. And Isaac is in the artist's apartment when the lights go out. 3 shadowy figures surround him. We catch a glimpse of a black Japanese mask. The door slams shut and locks. We hear the sound of furniture breaking and fighting as Chris and Allison try to force their way in, calling Isaac's name. So, that was highly interesting for episode 15 of Teen Wolf Season 3B. The next episode is going to be titled Illuminated. And we the season 3 we're going to have a total of 24 episodes. So, woo, 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 woo. But boy, I'm loving the second season of Teen Wolf because it has this more darker tone to it, and we got the Japanese mythology coming in, and Kira's not even freaking human. What? At first, I thought she was gonna be like a the fox thing, the kitsune, but apparently she's not that. She's something else, so that's kind of good to know. So, I will see you guys next Monday for episode 16 titled Illuminated. So, comment, rate, subscribe, and tell me what you thought of this episode. And I will see you guys next time.